up at Drury at the Bucky Bullet Gym, Matt. That was an overtime victory that the Blue Devils came back, and it was kind of a shocker. But you won that one 68-65 in overtime. Tell me a little bit about that one.
That, of all the sporting events I played in, that was the most memorable one. I'll never forget that for the rest of my life. That was, we were down 11, I think it says, with a minute 52 to go. Hoosac fans were chanting, "It's all over." You know, we didn't want to lose on our home floor, especially for a couple seniors that we had on that team. You know, so we kind of pulled it together, came back, ended up tying it, bringing it to overtime, and getting the victory. And I just remember the emotion in the locker room when we got down there after the game was overwhelming. It was an incredible win, great experience.
And Joel, that game was played at the old Bucky Bullet Gym at Drury High School, and people that haven't been to the gym in a number of years remember that gym was a great gym. It was actually a lot bigger seating capacity than it is now.
Yeah, we had some really great environments. The bleachers that were underneath the visitors basket. You could put another 500 people there, and the bleachers went 25 rows up. And we'd get 1,000 to 1,500, and sometimes maybe even 2,000 people in for those games. And it was, those were the games that you got up for, and didn't matter who else you played and who else you beat. It was Hoosac, Drury, and the thing that I think made them so special in those years was that we were very talented, and so were they. And so it was a game, when you went into that game, you knew that you had to play your best to win.
Well, there were certainly some great players that played, Matt, during that period of time. You and Joel, you had some great players on your team. Who were some of the players on Hoosac and Drury that you can remember back then?
I mean, the first one that comes to mind for me for Hoosac was Chad Mishuk. I mean, he put up some incredible numbers for his career, and he killed us. He was only a sophomore when we played against him my senior year, I believe, and he 34, 36 at Hoosac, and then he was a tough guard. It's hard to keep him in front. He had like an uncanny ability, even as a sophomore, just put the ball in the basket. He always found a way to put the ball in the basket, so he was tough. Another one for Hoosac that I remember, Keith Chubra.
Yes.
I thought his skill level was incredible. He could dribble, he could rebound, he could shoot, he could score down low, he played deep, played hard, he was a smart player. He was one of the good ones from Hoosac.
But Joel, you also, on this team we were referring to back in 2000, what's interesting fact we were talking about here is the talented players that you had on Drury. You had a bunch of guys who could score themselves. So you had a number of players that had the capacity. I think you said there were 7 or 8 players that had scored over 20 points at one point during the season.
Yeah, it was, if we had averaged maybe, 70, 75 points a game, and I think back, and myself and Matt and Brian Truskowski was also on the team, I think we all averaged 10 or 11 points. Mm-hmm. And for your 3 best players, so to speak, to only average 10 and you average 70-something, I think we had 8 or 9 guys that scored 20 in a game, and, to be able to have the confidence to be able to, for the coaches and for us to be able to play 8 or 9 guys, and any one of those guys could have been the guy that was, the guy that night.
Right.
And it was fun to play, because whoever was hot was going to get the ball, and, sometimes you'd score 5 and somebody else would score 25. And the next night you'd have 25 and that person had 8. Right. But it was fun to play, and it was, you look back on it, and that many guys scoring 20 points, to be able to score 20 points in a game is pretty impressive.
Well, it's pretty impressive when you see how offenses really kind of changed over the years in terms of basketball. And of course that year, you guys, Matt, you're talking about some of the players that played on even the other teams in the county. I mean, there were some great players that year, especially. You threw out like Chad Mishuk and Chubra, who's of course your team had a number of good players, but there were some good players. St. Joe Pittsfield had some good players. There were some players.
I remember one game against Pittsfield High School my junior year, and Chris O'Neill scored over 1,000 points, and Coach Jacoby's like, "All right, Matt, you're going to guard Chris. You want Chris for your games?" I'm like, "All right, I'll take care of this." Tip, boom, Pittsfield gets the ball. He went by me so fast, I turned to coach and said that he got to put somebody else out of one possession into the game. I mean, that's the talent level. Every team, a lot of the teams throughout the county had guys that could fill it up, and it made it a challenge. challenge. It was good playing against those guys, get those experiences. We played against them throughout youth leagues and everything, you know. So it was good times.
And Joel, as one might classify you as an undersized forward.
Height-wise, anyway.
Likewise, 5'10", 5'11", you were battling guys every single night. 2 or 3 inches taller than at least.
Yeah, I mean, and it was something where I had to learn the game to be able to play at that position. And you know, I guess I was vertically challenged. But you know, positioning and knowing the game and understanding, you know, long shots, long rebounds, and getting position early. And to be honest with you, my thought process, you know, and I had to play this way in college, and I played for a year. My thought process was, I'm going to outsmart you and outwork you, and it didn't matter how tall you were. And you know, I don't know if it was dumb luck or maybe a little bit of skill or a little bit of both, but it was tough. It was tough, and you know, these guys had it easy out in the wing. You know, every possession, you're banging bodies and you're trying to box 3 guys out, and they're tired. They only got to run 3-point line to three-point line. I got to run rim to rim.
Yes, I do remember Matt being more of a finesse player.
I do want to say though, you got to give Joel. He said he was vertically challenged, but prior to a knee injury, he was the most athletic kid in Berkshire County.
That's right.
Hands down. I mean, he was hitting his head off the backboard in 8th grade.
Right.
Kid could get up, you know.
Now, catching up with both of you guys, graduated from Drury High School and have now gone on, and actually both of you are involved in the college athletic scene at the present time. And Joel, you're down at UConn. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a position that I took in September, so I haven't been there that long, but you know, I'm an assistant strength coach there. And so I'm working with scholarship athletes every day. And the teams that I work, it's interesting, it's a different dynamic. I work with football, and then the opposite end of the spectrum, I work with golf. And then somewhere in between, I have the 2 tennis programs. But, you know, prior to that, I was at Trinity College and down in Connecticut and oversaw, you know, the strength program for about 29 teams, from basketball to lacrosse to, you know, you name it. And it's challenging, it's rewarding, it's I feel fortunate that I'm able to go to work every day and still work in athletics.
Right. And Matt, since being out of school, out of college, you've been involved coaching college baseball, and you were the head coach at St. Michael's. What are you doing right now?
I took the pitching coach position at Plattsburgh State over in New York. It was a good opportunity for me. The way they run their athletic programs, the facilities were an upgrade, so I thought it was a better choice for me career-wise.
Great. And of course, people, we talked about, talking about basketball here, but Matt had an outstanding career at Drury High School as a baseball player, and obviously took that on and are using those skills now in a career in coaching. Well, we certainly want to thank both you, Joel and Matt, for stopping by and sharing with us, your recollections of your high school days, especially this rivalry between Hoosac and Drury, and the events that you played in back then. They certainly were exciting, and people obviously enjoyed watching both of you play. And we want to wish you the best of luck going forward, and congratulate you guys on obviously good careers that you guys have made for yourselves in the college ranks. So
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Joel DeMarco and Matt Rodovic.
Thank you.
Yeah, Butch, when you're really talking about looking back at some of the great games, you got 2 fans here, probably 2 of the oldest fans that each of these schools have, in Woolard Beaver Bard, and of course Gene Wine. They're both here tonight.
Yeah, they are. It's good to see Mr. Wine out here, probably for his,
Good to see
I don't
Beaver
know how
again.
many Hoosac or Adams High Jury games, but he's been a head of ball for many, many years.